our July traffic and parking meeting. Appreciate each and every one of you being here this afternoon. But before we get started, I'd like to introduce a new member that we have here with us today, Carlos
Santos.
Gonzalez, right? Gonzalez. And also, glad to have Hal Burton here with us today. Hal, glad to have Baltroff. Yeah, glad to have you, Hal. I don't see, is any council members here? None? Okay. If you're not satisfied with the decision made by Traffic and Parking Commission, you may appeal the decision by filing for writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedure requirements have been met. All right, does everyone approve of the consent agenda today?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve? Second. All in favor say aye. Approval of the minutes from the June 12th meeting. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second. Have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, approval of the consent agenda. Item number 401.00, Hillside Avenue abandonment. Don't we have to do these one at a time, Jason?
You just have the whole
We'll
thing
go through all
approved.
of them
So
first.
I think you're done with this item number 4. You can read them, yeah.
You don't read them all?
Yeah, you can read them all.
Okay. Item 4B0200, alley number 25, number 246, abandonment. Item number 40300, North 18th Street, abandonment. Number 404.00, alley number 1838, abandonment. Item number 405.00, CD 19, traffic schedule connection along Scarlet Place and requested by NDOT. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. Thank you. All right, regular agenda. Item number 50100, draft policy, standard operating procedure for additional meter parking. Ask for you gentlemen here to speak on that? All right. Have y'all signed up to speak? They're with the, all right, good. Glad to have you gentlemen here. If you don't mind, speak into the mic there and push the button on the right side. I believe it's green. All right. Go ahead, gentlemen.
Marcus Jackson, NDOT Parking Manager.
And Brandon Boatswain, last parking manager.
Ed White.
Last parking manager.
Okay.
All right, basically our standard operating procedure says the potential areas must be at least 12 feet of lane according to Code 12.40.008, large enough to accommodate a normal 2-lane uninterrupted traffic flow when all the paid spaces are installed or occupied. First, upon locating a potential area, a request would have to be made by a member of NDOT's staff. The request for adding paid parking would go to the engineering division for inspection. The director or someone designated will then approve the request. The approved request will then go before the Traffic and Parking Commission for their approval to implement the proposed request. After Traffic and Parking Commission approval is provided, notice will be sent to the neighboring businesses and residents notifying of the installation of paid parking on street. There will be a 30-day waiting period for comments. If the comments require further investigation, staff will meet with the area businesses or residents to discuss the parking concerns. After completing the discussion, staff will proceed with the installation accordingly. A work order will then be sent to NDOT's engineering division for sign shop design and installation.
Hey, Commissioners.
Yes.
Afternoon. My name is Brad Freeze with Nashville Department of Transportation. So this is our standard operating policy. Hopefully you had a chance to see it in the staff analysis. We wanted to provide that to you to give you an opportunity to review that. Actually, we have the authority to set our policy procedure, but this is kind of a courtesy review of transparency. We want to show what our policy is going to be. So really, we bring this before you to see if you had any questions with regard to that, what we've laid out. Go ahead.
I'm still having some trouble understanding. Is there going to be an app that people can download to use this system?
So there's no app to download. Everything's by scan to park or text to park. We wanted to remove forcing people to download the app. That would be a little bit cumbersome sometimes. We wanted to make it quick, effective and efficient for everyone. So we try to steer away from that.
So does that mean, and I've used it, worked fine, but if I continually use it, will there be a way to remember my license plate number, or is that something I enter every time I use it?
You should have the option to save your license in there, and as you start entering your information, you should see that kind of like I'm going to drop down. It should automatically, your phone should remember your license plate and all your information.
Okay, and last question. If I'm at a movie or I'm having a great time to eat, out eating, can I renew for 15 or 30 minutes? Can I renew for like an additional 30 minutes without having to get up to leave, move my car and everything?
So yes, you have the ability to extend, but it's in 1 hour increments. So depending on how long you actually purchase your initial reservation, if you purchase it for 1 hour, then you should receive a text message to extend it for an additional 1 hour, therefore after.
So I'll get something ahead of time saying your time's running out.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Anyone else have any questions? You must have done a good job. All right. All in favor say aye. Opposed? None? Thank you. All right. Item number 50200. CD various authorization for the proposal of a new meter parking spaces requested by NDOT. Your turn again, gentlemen.
Yeah, so the first one is the east side of First Avenue South, Peabody, between Peabody and Hermitage Avenue, located there downtown. Simple as that. I think there it is right there. So right there, as you can see, there is a lot of opportunity to change that over to paid parking. Right now it's currently unpaid, so we wanted your approval just to change that over to metered spaces and add that into inventory.
How many spaces?
Right there, you can probably accommodate roughly about, depending on the size of the vehicles, about 10 to 12 vehicles.
Is this something we're doing all at once, or are we reviewing each one of these at a...
Just, that's really up to you. I mean, we have slides for every single one of these. If you did not have any questions on any of them, or you felt comfortable, you can move to approve. We're just here to answer any questions that you have on these locations. So.
And so just to kind of, so with the standard operating procedures you just put before this, y'all have already gone through that part and we're just approving this part. I mean, for this one, I've been through there. It looks like, folks are already parking there. Seems like a reasonable space to go ahead and add some metered parking, because it's, adjacent to downtown. And it's right around the corner from Korean veterans. So it looks like a good candidate to add some more parking.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Jason, do you have any more? All right.
Is it possible to see a slide on each one of these? I know we've seen this, but since you've got them up there, just to run through this. I know. I know. Can we just run through each one of them while we
Yes.
have the photo in front of us?
Oh, yes. Absolutely. I will say this. Each of these has gone through an engineering analysis, and that's what the staff report shows in there, just to show, if there's space there to actually provide that on-street parking in there. So just want to make that clear too.
Great.
Any other questions?
Can I get clarification on the pavement width? Is that from curb to curb, or is that? I see some varying, like Peabody's 31 feet, but Rutledge is 50. Can you clarify what pavement?
Which one are we looking at?
So it's face of curb to face of curb.
Okay.
That's how we measure the width.
I thought he wanted to say something.
No, we're just waiting for the meeting.
So is there a minimum that you all base that on, during? And I'm just looking at Rutledge particular, putting parking on both sides seems a little tight at 31 feet, but it's just me looking at it from this perspective.
Yeah, so our policy is anything that is under or equal to or less than 30 foot, then we have the ability to restrict parking on one side of the street. If at 30 and less, so 30 foot and less, we have the ability. So we want to establish a minimum of 12 foot for a travel way in there. So if you consider 8 to 9 feet for each parking space in there. So if you, for example, if it was 30 foot, then you take, on both sides of the road, 8 to 9 foot, then you're down to that 12 foot exactly. So that's why we have that range established. So we're always maintaining at least 12 foot of width, and that's per code.
Have any more, Sarah Lee?
No.
Any other questions? All right.
So I believe Commissioner Woods asked to go through, run through them each one. So what we'll do is, if you can back up, make sure we're in sync. Jason, and can we go over each one of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, you talking about all of these? No, we got to read them first.
Yeah, I can go down and read each one.
We'll read each one as we go through there, and then
All right.
show. Yeah.
I'm talking about 5021. You gonna read each one of them?
Yes. So we just went over.
But don't we have to vote on each one of them separately?
You do not. You can vote on them. You can vote on them all together at the same time. But
Okay.
but with we've had a request to go through all of them just to give you an overview of each one of them before y'all actually bring it to the floor to a vote.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right. And then so 502.02 is the north side of Peabody from Hermitage Avenue to 2nd Ave South, which is also downtown. That one would be just about mid-block from east to west. The next one we have is both sides, the east and west side of Rutledge Avenue, also downtown from Leah Avenue to Middleton Street. That is right there, right? Yes, that is correct. Both sides has the ability to accommodate parking on both sides of the street, and you currently see that there are vehicles parking on both sides, so there's definitely a major opportunity for paid parking there. The next one we have up, 50204, east and west side of 4th Ave South, from KBB to Peabody. That's right alongside the Joseph Hotel and by Martin's Barbecue. Great opportunity there. And then the next one we have is 50205, which is the north side of Division Street. We're in Midtown from Lyle to 19th Ave South. Small block, but small opportunity for paid parking. There's currently paid parking on Division Street, so it's an opportunity to kind of swing it off to the side street. And then we have the east side of Lyle Avenue, from Broadway to Division, right there as you see. So probably half the block you're able to provide paid parking, as there is paid parking on Division Street. On the west side of the road, there would be no parking, so that's just paid parking on one side of the road there. And then 50207, we would do the east and west side of 18th Ave South from Division Street to Chet Atkins. A lot of apartment complexes there as well as some other businesses on the other side of the street. Tons of opportunity, once again, for paid parking on that's Edge Hill area. Music Row, sorry. And then 50208, we would do the east side of 18th Ave South from Chet Atkins Place to Edge Hill. That neighborhood would be the Edge Hill neighborhood. I'm also accommodating parking just on one side of the road. Next up, we have 50209, north and south side of Grand Avenue from Music Square East to 16th Avenue South towards that dead end. Small area right there, tons of businesses, even some eatery in that neighborhood. It's just a great opportunity for, once again, for paid parking on both sides of the road.
Hey, Brandon, I wanted to point out one thing. So when you see the image, below the image, you actually have the measurements, of that location. So you can see what it was measured as, what we're proposing as far as what side of the road, parking would be on, and then if it's one or both sides of the road. So just making that point. Thank you, Brandon.
Next up is
10.
I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Next up is 50210, east side of Music Square East from Tremont down to South Street. On this side, we're just going to do one side of the road on Music Square East. It is a one-directional road there, so obviously we can only accommodate parking on one side of the street. After that, we have 50211, which is the south side of McGavick Street from 16th Ave South to 14th Ave South, mid-block. Right there, that's going to be right behind the new development over by, behind Beeman Auto, which is now going to be developed. And after that, we have the south side of Patterson Street from 24th Avenue North to 23rd Avenue North, mid-block. There is currently paid parking there as well, but it only goes half the block, so we want to be able to extend that. We currently have a meter on the west side of that street, but wanted to add an additional meter going eastbound further on the east side of that road. And then we have the east side of 22nd Ave North from Charlotte Avenue to Murphy. One side of the road, we would add, paid parking, most likely some e-commerce signs there. And then on the west side of 21st Ave North from Patterson to Murphy Avenue, same as that one side of the road. And most likely we'll just do e-commerce signs.
Commissioners, anyone have any questions?
What does it mean? I'm asking you all this so when other people ask me, I can answer. What does it mean when you say e-commerce signs?
Yeah, so we would basically install just the QR code instead of actually dropping a meter there. Being that there's not maybe that much traffic there during all hours of the day, so it wouldn't make sense to drop a machine in that area. So just have a mobile solution there.
Anyone else?
Yeah, in some of these residential areas, I know last meeting we talked about the permitting for residential residents. This isn't going to affect or intrude on any of that, correct?
This is separate for that. We will have that discussion about the residential parking permit program after this. And I'll add a couple things. So we, as you can see from the pictures, the majority of these, there are already people parking in them. So we feel like, the regulatory environment is here for these parking spaces to actually be regulated per our on-street parking program. So that's one of the reasons why we're coming before you with these locations.
Are all of these places, are they going to be different meters? I mean, different numbers of them, depending on where they are?
Different number of meters that would place.
Yeah.
It would vary based on the
They'll
inventory.
vary.
Correct.
How many you think there'll be?
So it depends. Some streets we would not put a machine and we would just put up e-commerce signs. Different areas where we see that there's higher volume and higher turnover in the street, then we would provide put a machine there. And we usually try to shoot for one machine per about 8 to 12 maybe vehicles. So it all depends on how long the road is, how many vehicles we can actually accommodate.
What I'm talking about, what's the total number of machines on all of these?
Oh, there's currently no machines there. There's not paid parking at all.
Okay, all right. You have anything? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Move to approve. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry.
All opposed?
Second.
Second. Thank you. Appreciate it, gentlemen. All right. Unfinished business. 60100 RPP Residential Parking Permit Policy. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Yeah, basically our residential parking its purpose is to enact a policy to define the guidelines for approval, consideration of the residential parking permit, and basically a desired street must be an NDOT accepted street and parameters distinctly defined. Application must be submitted by a local HOA or community group. Once completed and received, a member of the NDOT traffic engineering staff will make a site visit. And to have the residential parking program area,
Gotta read all of that.
at least 3 of the following criteria need to be met. And I think these have already been reviewed. 3 of the 9. Would they like for us to go through them?
So commissioners, we came before you last time and went over this and showed you a draft. There were some questions about some grammatical improvements and things like that. So we actually took another look at that and enhanced that based on our conversations last time. We had a gentleman come and present. He had a question about the council members' involvement as far as the order of operations when it comes to whether it comes before the committee, can the commissioner actually, or can the council member actually keep the request coming before the committee? And the answer to that is they cannot. And we define that clearly in this update. So we wanted to address that in the update. That was one of the revisions that were made. Additionally, we did run this through Teresa Custonis, our legal counsel, for her to look at that, to compare that to the existing code, making sure we were in alignment with the code and with this policy. So she had some comments and thoughts and made some revisions too. So this is what was sent to you last week to review. So this again, we want to make sure, for transparency's sake, that we're passing this through the Traffic and Parking Commission for you to review when we set this policy. Go ahead, Teresa.
Just the one thing that Brad didn't cover that I wanted to add was there's also a question last month about the home health care workers. And so we did specify in this revision of the policy that they would be considered service vehicles, which are allowed to park with just some kind of like little designation of what they're there to do. And they're basically exempt from the policy, application of the policy under, I think it was 1244.070, maybe?
That's
no,
right.
1242.070. Sorry, wrong chapter.
And so when we're, I think this is a good policy to have something in general. And so my understanding is that we're so NDOT enforcement, the kind of LAS, that infrastructure is going to be the ones who are enforcing residential parking permits.
Yeah, it'll be rolled into our overall parking program as far as enforcement. So it will be, it's a collection of department staff. It's supplemented by contractor for enforcement as well. But every citation does go through an NDOT employee to review and approve on.
Okay. And so with us extending this area, I know it's what, $30 for each permit, right? Is it 30? Because I didn't see that in here with the cost.
Yeah, currently, right now, it's $10.
$10 for the.
$10 annual.
That's
$10 annually.
And we're not changing. We're not proposing to change that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve. All in favor say aye.
We need a second.
Need a second. Where you been?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks for clarifying everything.
All right, new business, 7.0. 7:01, public comments, procedure, review, and discussion. Jason? Go away.
Yeah. In your packet, you have the standing rules that we approved recently back in February. What I did to meet the new state law for public comments was to add a paragraph to your standing rules for how you conduct yourselves. And it's highlighted. I guess it's item number 3 in your markups.
Yes, and commissioners, this was the state law that Teresa Costonis brought up there for the public comment period. So we actually copied some of that provision from the state law over here to make sure it carries over into your policy. I mean, your standing rules, excuse me.
Yep. So the text in blue is actually some text that's already been adopted by other commissions in Metro. So we just wanted to stay consistent with those other commissions. And I can read it, or you can ask me any questions about it. But basically, what we just wanted to do is have someone who comes in to, write their name down and what they want to talk about that pertains to your agenda, and then and have those names before we get to item number 3 on our agenda, which is typically the approval of minutes, before we go into the consent agenda. And then we would present those names to you so that you could offer an opportunity prior to the regular agenda for a public comment, or if they want to speak during one of the agenda topics, they could just wait until then. But that's just something we wanted to add in here for you guys to consider for approval of your standing rules, or to modify your standing rules. Really, a motion to approve this language to be incorporated in your standing rules for your proceedings.
Commissioner?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, have a motion to approve and a second. Did you have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take care of that.
So this is what's in state law for the maximum amount of people currently.
So the state law doesn't specify that. So that is what you are specifying. And Brad was saying, or Jason was saying, that it came from other boards and commissions, what they had approved. So it's more that the state law does allow each commission to set some parameters around this public comment period in terms of how long it can last for, how many people can speak, whether they have to sign up beforehand, and like what period of time each speaker can speak for. And so that is what this policy addresses. So that has to be adopted as a part of y'all's rules of procedure. And you are the ones who can do that by motion.
Okay.
I think public comment is important, and I don't know where the maximum of 10 people came from. I guess I would like to better understand where that came from. And then the second thing, just I guess some rules around how we come up with those names. If I get a group of people or I show up and I write 10 names down for those other 9 people, like, is that okay? Or, I just want to be open and fair to the public such that people get to voice and provide their comments.
Yeah, it's completely up to your, as the commission, your prerogative. We put this forward as a proposal based on best practices, what other committees were doing. So if you want to change that, it's really up to you.
Teresa?
I have a suggestion. If you want to address that, I think you could add the word own, a maximum of 10 persons who write their own names on the sign-up sheet. But yes, that has happened before at other public meetings where I've represented clients where somebody signs up 10 people.
How were those handled? Just curious.
I mean, these were ones where we were doing a big public hearing where, scores of people were speaking anyway. So it was more annoying than prohibitive.
And so, I mean, is this does it have to just be 10 people if it says it's just 10 people, or is it at our discretion as, depending on the issue?
So you all make your rules, so you all have the ability to waive your rules.
So we could amend the commissioner's motion.
You could amend it to add the word own in between right and their names. You could also amend it to change the number of 10 if you wanted to. It's your decision.
And
I would like to hear other people's opinion on it. I mean, I'm not opposed or for it or opposed to it, but
I have a question of clarification for legal. So can the commission, if it said 10 in the standing rules, they could, during that day, if they have, during that commission meeting, they had more than 10 show up, say 20 showed up, they could actually suspend those
I think so, yes.
standing rules at that time to say,
yeah, they are
we've
your
got 30
rules.
people here.
They are your rules. So if you wanted to waive them because you felt like in the interest of transparency or whatever, it was good to go ahead and hear from everybody who made the effort to show up, even if it was more than 10 people, I think you could allow that on an individual waiver basis. But generally, it's good to have where your rule is the rule and the exception is the exception and not the other way around. So you want to be pretty consistent. There can be an unusual situation where a matter is just so highly of public interest that, 10 doesn't seem adequate. But and I will say, and I've said this to my other boards and commissions too, I have 2 boards and commissions that already did this. A lot of times, 0 people, 1 people, 2 people show up. It's not usually a burden. It's not usually a problem, except for when you have that super controversial issue on the agenda, and then it's going to be a problem anyway. So I wouldn't be too worried about this adding significant length to your meetings in most cases.
So what I'm hearing in that situation, we wanted to amend, or not amend, but waive or adjust those rules at those specific meetings. It's okay. It would be up to the chairman and vice chairman to do that.
I mean, I think you would all have to vote to do that, but yeah, I think that you could vote to waive the application of your rule at a particular meeting where there was a need or desire or a reasonable basis for more than 10 people to give public comment.
And when do we do this in the agenda? If we see the agenda and we see the number of people coming up, what point?
It sounds like we need to approve the list prior to item 3 or part of item 3,
So,
or what we're going to do there.
yeah, I would just say, like prior to the beginning of the actual public comment period. Are we having a public comment period today?
We didn't have anyone from the.
Oh, no one signed up?
Yeah.
Great.
So before the approval of the agenda, before the approval of the minutes?
No, not necessarily, but just before the public comment period itself. I think you would have to decide, if you
I just said that.
I'm
because
sure
it said-
staff would let you know if more than 10 people signed up, you know.
3 on the agenda.
Yes, are you saying?
That's right. It does say you have to sign up prior to item C on the agenda. So I guess would you have the comment? Well, Jason was saying it could be kind of broken up a little bit, like if somebody wanted to speak about a particular topic that came later on the agenda.
We were proposing, as far as this standing rules, to do all the public comment period at the same time, you know.
Okay.
And of course, they would know, go ahead.
I may have misunderstood
Yeah,
that.
I think there was some confusion on this state law. It seemed like they wanted to force this comment period where most commissions allow people to speak on topics as they cover them. Like John would always say, or Chairman Green would always say, you know, is anyone from the public that has a concern or question or want to speak? So I think what we'll do is when they put down the item on the sign-in that they want to speak on, I think it's just going to be helpful for Chairman Green to say, we have this individual who would like to speak on this item, and just cover it there. Unless somebody comes in and just, you know, we wouldn't have to let them speak, I guess, but if they just wanted to comment on something that was traffic and parking related, which we have done that before, and we typically wait till kind of the end, others, to maybe let a last minute person, you know, speak that wanted to speak. We can maybe do that at
Yeah,
the beginning of the
I mean,
meeting, but just limit their
I
time,
would
like we're
definitely
saying.
encourage y'all to be flexible on the side of letting people speak. So I think what legal actually recommended in our memorandum analysis of this was to have one comment period at the beginning of the meeting. But it doesn't have to be like beginning, like before anything else. It can be, you know, after item C or whatever. But having said that, like if people come up to speak, and what we've done at other commission meetings where we already do this is when people come up to speak, they say, you know, instead of speaking right now, I'd like to reserve my time to speak when agenda item 504 comes up or something like that. And at your discretion, you would probably be willing to allow that.
Thank you. I guess my question was the requirement that it be germane to the agenda. I mean, my understanding for the intent of this public comment, to your point earlier, is as currently configured, you speak on an item as you move through the agenda, and that informs the conversation and the decision that the commission makes. As we have contemplated this on the council side of the house, the public comment period that we have alternating the zoning public hearing in alternate weeks is for an item specifically not on the agenda. And so obviously there's a relevancy. It's not come here, talk about anything. I mean, it has to be pertinent to the work of the Traffic and Parking Commission. But my understanding is what I can't speak to the intent, the legislative intent of the state legislature, but I would put to commissioners, we already have a format within which folks can speak to items on the agenda. And I do think there is merit in signing up ahead of time and sort of understanding, oh, we've got 10 people to speak on this, or 5, or no one. That informs the consent agenda. So I think the preliminary sign up is good. But I would say pushing all the comment for the full agenda to the front of the meeting, you know, as we have our conversations and deliberations, are we colleagues really going to remember, you know, the person that arrived an hour ago who shared? Further, if you comment at the beginning, you're a citizen, you've heard all the conversation, and then it's like, ooh, there was one more thing I wanted to say, or, oh, now that I've listened to this, I would rather have said something else. Like, I don't understand why we would push all the agenda-related comment to the top of the meeting, respectfully.
Teresa?
Okay, so I mean, the germane to the agenda language is actually directly from the state statute itself. But we did not read it to mean that people had to talk piecemeal at the time that the agenda items came up. We just meant that the topic upon which they spoke had to, and whether that was at the beginning or during the course of the meeting, and that part is entirely up to you, whichever way you want to do it. But the topic upon which they spoke is supposed to be germane to an item on the agenda, just so that they don't come before you and start talking about something that the Traffic and Parking Commission has no ability to address whatsoever. You know, like I said, my advice would probably be to be a little lenient, like in terms of determining what's within the scope of your agenda and allow people to speak if it's only 2 minutes. And
I think if I may, Chair.
Say, Lee.
I think, so is the legislature telling us, requiring us to move the comments to the front? So we
no,
could keep
that is
doing.
Metro Legal's recommendation based on the state statute. So the state is not requiring you to set these parameters or guidelines around this comment period in any specific way. That is left to your discretion.
It does seem to be working well, you know, about, you know, like Councilwoman Henderson said, what we're doing, because it's on topic as we.
I think the reason why maybe my office preferred it to be collective is just because it makes it a little easier to show from the record that the compliance occurred. Like if you have everybody speak at once and you follow your rules, then you have like a clear record of compliance with the state law. Whereas if people speak a little bit piecemeal, they may it may be a little harder to go back and prove that yes, we gave everyone who wanted to a chance to speak, or just like a little more cumbersome to prove that. So I think it's entirely up to your discretion which way you want to do it. I'm fine with y'all doing it either way.
Okay. Teresa, what are we voting on now?
First, if somebody wants to amend any items in the proposed rule in front of you, then you might vote on that language first and then on the rule as amended. And if you don't want to make any changes to it and you like it exactly the way it is, then you can just vote on it as it is.
Commissioner.
So I've got a couple suggestions. One, can we just take the number of people out and say that the commission decides on the maximum number of people to speak per each item prior to item 3 via a vote?
I mean, I would not necessarily recommend that just because if you're too inconsistent, there can be a perception of different groups of people being treated differently. So if you have like kind of a standard amount of time, I think that would be a little more even-handed. So I would, like, again, it is at your discretion, but I would suggest having a limit.
Then I would suggest a maximum number of people per item, potentially. I mean, the sidewalk vending just is more recent in the event that, to Councilwoman Henderson's point.
What is your max?
I would recommend 5 to 10 per, if I had to pick
You
a
want
number.
to put that on there as an amendment?
You need to.
How do we need to do that?
I mean, you can maybe reword it to say a maximum of, and would it be 5 or 10? 5 to 10
Because if you got
effectively means a
10
maximum
items
of
on the
10.
agenda and you say 10 people per, the
Yeah.
worst is
So
it's 30 minutes per item. So it's
Yeah.
like, want to be conscious of that. And it's not.
and you
for our
might want to
commission,
limit
so,
it to like substantive agenda items, like maybe not to the approval of the minutes or, the things that you all do more procedurally. I mean, I guess that could be substantive if there was something really inconsistent with what was said previously. But
Chair, if I may I?
Sarah Lee?
Chair, may I be recognized, Chair?
Go ahead.
Okay. What I wanted to suggest is if we make the general comment at the top of the meeting, kind of keep it as is, but rather than saying germane to the agenda, we could just say germane to the purview of or the work of the Traffic and Parking Commission, or something that, constrains that language somewhat to its relevancy. And then the subsequent comments on the items on the agenda, I would encourage us not to constrain that. I think we could set up something where you would have a sign up ahead of time, so that we might recognize, oh, we do have 30 people here to talk about sidewalk vending, and that thus means we need to have some sort of special accommodation or special hearing, or it informs the agenda, right? So the agenda is shaped somewhat by these really contentious items, and kind of splitting those apart. To Commissioner Wood's point, I just think there's a standard order of business wherein the chair can say, is there anyone here to comment on this item on the agenda? And that just works through the agenda. I don't think I want us to get into limiting that. I do think in a general comment space, there is some logic around setting a time limit, and maybe instead of 10, it's 5, because we're just saying they're general. Somebody might want to come to us and say, hey, Traffic and Parking Commission, I really wish you would consider reducing all 2-lane collectors in Davidson County to 30 miles per hour, right? Like, there needs to be a venue for folks to come to share those kind of general things. And that was the intent of the comments at council, because the only comments we were ever hearing from the public colleagues were about zoning items on public hearing. And what we heard from the public was they wanted to sometimes comment on items of general legislative interest or policy interest. So I would, rather than respectfully, Commissioner Mason, constraining each, internal to the agenda, I would say perhaps further constraining at the top of the agenda and just saying, Ms. Casonis, 5 of general whatever. And then to your point, sometimes people sign up, sometimes they don't. We make it aware. And then everything else just runs as it always has, colleagues. I mean, that would be my suggestion.
I agree. I think my general comments are just based around our flexibility to accommodate the needs based on the issue, and let's not be here for 5 hours either. So that's the baseline.
So what I think I understood, Councilmember Henderson, that we are only you're only looking to set standing rules for the public comment period. However, you will still have public comments, during those agenda items during that. And you do support the idea of those people actually providing, a note that they want to speak on those, and then sharing with the chair at the, as the meeting starts. So Chair Green or whoever the chair is can see those and say, okay, well, we have this agenda item, and I'm seeing by my notes here that we have Ms. Smith or
right. I think the sign up is just helpful to the run of the meeting, and you would have something that is items of, germane to the work of the Traffic and Parking Commission of general interest, not on today's agenda. 5 options at 2 minutes, and that's the top comment. And then you can just, again, I would encourage us not to limit, but whomever is here to sign up for items on the agenda, if you made a point to come here to speak to something on the agenda, I'm not sure why we're constraining that. If we could tell from our inbox that it's a contentious matter, then I would say that should inform the agenda, and we should organize the agenda in that way, make a special motion at that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, be responsive to those few times when Commissioner Mason's right. It's just, welcome commissioners to the life of a council member where, hours and hours and hours of, it's just, I think we really want to err on the side of not constraining the comment. And if we're opening up a new opportunity here, I think that's in a space that's not particular to the agenda. We already have the agenda option that exists today. What the state has said is you have to have a separate comment at the top of your meeting for general.
It doesn't actually say it has to be at the top of the meeting.
A separate comment period.
But it does say that the comments have to be germane to items on the agenda. That is from the state law. So you don't have to enforce it that way. You could be broader than what the state law requires and be like, we're going to go above and beyond. We're going to allow them to speak on anything that the commission has authority to address rather than just limiting it to the items on the agenda. So you could do that, certainly.
I mean, it's, yeah.
Jason.
I just got maybe a quick recommendation, and we can work this out over time. We haven't had many situations like the sidewalk vending where there was a lot of people that showed up, not since I've been here. We already have on the agenda the reference to the Tennessee Act, Open Meetings Act. If we just added for now, instead of amending your procedures, if we just added, please sign up, prior to the end of item 3, at least we have in our agenda, every meeting, we have this language from the act, and we have that list that they sign up, and that's in front of the chair. Do you think that kind of meets the intent?
I think that would fit within it as well. I think you might want to still specify a maximum amount of time each individual can speak for.
Well, we have up here 3 minutes, and I think if we have a situation where we know, like Commissioner Henderson mentioned, we know there's going to be a lot of individual citizens coming to one of these meetings, we could make you all aware, maybe have that special hearing and just dedicate that time for the public. But
I mean, I
most
think
of our meetings are
that's
not
fine
that
as
way.
well. I mean, I guess I would just say that I think that adopting it in the form of a rule that this commission has authority to make to govern its procedures is necessary. So I do think you'll have to take a vote on it.
Do we need to change any? May I suggest we change the wording of the motion to give us that flexibility?
I strike my motion.
I guess, the language is proposed in blue. I like Ms. Costonis's addition of their own names. And I do think, just based on council, 2 minutes is actually a pretty long time. And I would say if you're trying to make sure that you want people to be cogent. So, if they know they're constrained to 2 minutes, then they have to prepare their remarks to be 2 minutes. So I think it's kind of both and, like what Mr. Oldham said. It's just, still doing the comment at the top, having it be just 2 minutes, as written here, Ms. Costonis. And then, because the intent now is not to have every single item discussed at the top of the meeting, I'm agnostic as to 5, 10, otherwise, for the number of persons, because I think if folks are still commenting as the agenda goes, that number could be smaller. But if we want to start with 10 and see how many people sign up and say it's limited to 2 minutes per, I think the current language is fine. I think we're just trying to clarify that this is not the one and only time to speak on every single thing that is on the agenda at the top of the meeting. That's just what I want to be clear. I don't know if that works with the language that we have now, Ms. Costonis, just by adding their own names.
No, I think we would have to make some more changes, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I would welcome you to suggest those changes.
I
Ms.
mean, so
Costonis.
you're suggesting that the public comment period at the beginning would not have to be to comment on matters that are germane to items on the agenda.
If you want to say it's germane to items on the agenda, that's fine. To your point about planning commission, sometimes council members are, it's not actually members of the community, sadly, but, we're afforded the opportunity to speak at the top of the meeting. Most of us usually withhold our comments till we wait with everybody else and hear what has to be said. So there is some precedent in, speaking at the top of the meeting, whether public or otherwise. I just think, the state has passed this law, and now every board and commission is scrambling around and kind of, making a mess of how their agendas, all due respect, work. And so I am trying to encourage additional public comment, but not have it just sort of hijack the whole entire way we do our agenda, colleagues. So whatever you think, Ms. Costonis, I mean, whatever state law says, we have to have the language in there. But I would say, colleagues, then my proposal would be,
No, it doesn't say that we have to have the language in there. Like I said, it sets a floor, right? You have to have a public comment period, as opposed to many boards and commissions have never allowed any speakers at all, other than the members of the commissions and staff, and anyone staff brings to testify. But so for the commission in that situation, which is not your practice, then this would be a big change for them. So you can keep it consistent with how you've done it in the past in terms of allowing each person to speak on each agenda item. If you want to add the 2 minutes limit to that, if you want to add a number of persons on each item, with the ability to possibly waive that in unique circumstances, I think that would be fine too. I do think it's important that this actually be like a specific motion that's adopted, though, in terms of the wording that will be in the rules going forward to address this. So I'm happy to either try to come up with something right now, or I'm not sure I have a consensus idea of what the commission wants.
So I've got another recommendation that might meet what you're wanting. Let's just, my recommendation is use this language here and move that into here in its incomplete sentence that we have here on the agenda. Per the Tennessee Open Meetings Act, Public Chapter number 300, members of the public are invited to provide comment on matters germane to the items on the agenda. Then scratch the maximum 10 persons, drop down to the next sentence. Comments are limited to a maximum of 2 minutes per person. To provide comment, please sign up prior to the end of item 3 on the agenda. The public comments period does not apply to disciplinary matters agenda. I don't know if you want to leave that last sentence or strike it, and that just be it as part of this. And then you have the discretion of where to incorporate those public hearings in your agenda, not to be in the front. Because I think this is intended, like Ms. Costonis was saying, those commissions that have not traditionally had those public comment periods, where we have had that always.
So can we have, at the end, like we have other items, can that be where if somebody has something that's not on our agenda, that
I think so.
they sign up for that with the 2 minute limit?
Yeah, and I
We
think
don't
you've
do that.
always done that. I think you've always done that. But we will, when you motion, you will set that 2 minute, which will replace this 3 minutes. And I think that's actually kind of good. I think
So are you talking about, may I ask a question? May I clarify something Jason said? My question is, are we amending the language on the standard form agenda, or are we amending the rule?
No, it's the rule. I'm just saying
Does the rule say 3 minutes now?
Right now on our agenda, it does not say, in our rule right now, it does not say 3 minutes. It says the chair has the authority to set that time frame. So the authority is still here for the chair to kind of control the meeting, which is
2
good.
minutes. Okay, now I'm understanding.
So we have just traditionally set, the 3 minutes as kind of threshold, but to actually put 2 minutes in your regulation, well, that's 2 minutes. But it's out there for the public to see. Hey, it's 2 minutes. That's what they have. I think the chair could still potentially change that if necessary to allow more time.
Do we need to defer this and let the two of you all get together and then come back to our next meeting with here's the wording that complies to the law? Because you've heard from us what we want. So a motion to defer till next month, till the August meeting.
All right, we have a motion to defer. All in favor?
Aye.
Got to get a second.
A second.
Got a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you. All right, other items. 8O, other items. What we got, Saber Lee?
I don't see anything else. Do we have anything
No.
else? I have Mr. Chair, I would like to ask something of staff. There's an article out in today's daily Nashville Banner about pedestrian safety, which is one of the things our commission's supposed to be focused upon. And I wonder if staff could update us about what we can do to save lives. As commission members, what steps we can take or encourage people about.
Yeah. So as you as an individual, as a citizen, and a commission as your role on the commission as well, that's what you're asking is what you can do.
Absolutely. I know we've been inundated with parking and getting what we needed to do on parking, but I'd like some focus. I wonder if staff can advise us, or here's what we can do to enforce people using the right-of-way when pedestrians have the right-of-way, or what we're doing to encourage, to save lives.
So what I would suggest is the commission can, request the department to continually update on different Vision Zero implementations that are going on in different initiatives and help. Like right now, for example, we have a Vision Zero task force that's a community-driven task force that we go before that task force to update them for transparency on things and receive their feedback on different initiatives, and we make proposals to them, and they respond, and we have that dialogue back and forth. In the same way, as a commission, you can ask the department to come forward and share different items that we're doing as far as public education, activities, and get updates on those, but also provide comments and suggestions to the department as well on that.
So we could get regular updates.
Absolutely.
Yes, go ahead.
I did want to share, colleagues, just from the council side, that Councilman Rutherford's bill that was before us at the previous commission, bringing neighborhood classified streets in the GSD also down to 25 miles per hour to be in alignment with the USD, did pass council unanimously, I think, on the consent agenda with multiple sponsors, me among them. So I did want to give you that feedback from the council side of the House. And Commissioner Woods, I've yet to read the Banner article about sidewalks, but I ran for office to deliver sidewalk policy to elevate and expand our regulations, and this city spent numerous years and massive stakeholder process and legal crafting of some really complex sidewalk legislation that is kind of a response to our highly preemptive state environment and the fact that we're working 80 years backwards, and it was a very complicated strategic puzzle. We fought off state preemption for multiple years, and then the far-right Libertarian Beacon Center and others mounted a legal challenge, so now the city is in an awkward place now, given a ruling at the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. So it comes, Commissioner Woods, at really an awful time at the end of an administration, but there will be a lot of work to be done by the next city council about how we come back and manage our capital budget and our requirements for sidewalks. Our legislation, in my view, was very good legislation. We drew a lot of compliments from other similarly suburban sprawled cities, Commissioner Woods, and so it is a heavy burden and hurdle for us as a city now, as far behind as we are, but I would assert that we need to come back on the council side of the house and promulgate policy. So that would be my response in partnership with staff and the department.
And I had just one question. I know that and seeing that, looking at some of the Vision Zero data, we've seen drops in fatalities on those roads that we have lowered the speed limits, but we still see the same amount of fatalities on state roads and those roads. So, are there any recommendations we can make towards safety and lowering speed limits on those state routes?
Absolutely, you can make recommendations on.
I would like to make one now. To look at ways to lower the speed limits on state roads, because that's where, if we're really going to truly get to Vision Zero, we have to look at seriously lowering the speed limits and putting in infrastructure that would allow for pedestrian safety.
Doesn't the state control that?
We do work with the state as far as the regulatory on state routes. Yes, we sign it, but it is a partnership.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Adams, very much. I think, because of, multiple administrations, multiple directors of NDOT, promulgating NDOT, et cetera, I do hope, Commissioner Woods, that this commission in coming months and years will be very intentional in a similar way about, bringing all the USD streets down to 25. Then we did the GSD. Something I've been asking for here and I hope is coming soon is, our 2-lane collectors, because we've been bringing as council members individual streets. And for those 2-lane more narrow connectors, 30 does feel right. And, we can keep having council members come through here asking for 30 miles per hour, 30 miles per hour. But as long as we are doing county-wide on the neighborhood streets, I would say the next logical step, Commissioner Woods, is the 30 mile per hour on the 2-lane collectors. And that then aligns with what I know to be part of the Vision Zero plan that Mr. Freeze was looking at, that we can actually perhaps start doing traffic calming on some of those collectors, so those can effectuate some of the safe crossings that you're talking about, Commissioner Woods, that would, I think, hopefully eliminate some of the fatalities. I think, Mr. Freeze, what you're hearing from this commission and the council, I hope, is that we've done some pilots here and there, and council members have changed these speeds, and I think we want to get to a place where we're delivering stuff countywide, and we're building a template of this is how we do crosswalks near to schools, right? All crosswalks near schools are elevated, the end, full stop. Like some of that kind of countywide recommendations, I think, Commissioner Woods, are in line with the goals of this commission. So thank you for your interest, Commissioner.
Thank you for that comment. We definitely share the same passion for safety and public safety. I mean, that's part of what we think about every day. It's part of us as our agency. We want it to be a part of everyone, part of Metro. So we are committed to those same principles that you're talking about.
Okay. You want to?
Sir, I'll make
Wait, hold on 1 second. We do have to, before we adjourn, have to note that the next meeting will actually be held here as well at the East Precinct due to early voting. So just everyone be aware that we'll be back here in August.
Okay.
And what is the date of that meeting, please?
The 14th.
All right. It looks like that is the end of the July meeting.
And
Captain, Sergeant, Lieutenant, which one?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to approve. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Good. Appreciate everybody being here.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.